So this will be another sorting by pronoun piece, and in this instance, we'll sort by the pronoun Roman Catholic, and of course, we may include other pronouns as well. The designation Protestant here for Neil Gorsuch is a little bit misleading because the Protestant that they're referring to is Episcopalian, or the Church of England, which is pretty close, to being to being Catholic. And I believe Mr. Gorsuch was raised Catholic, so we can effectively sort him into this category, the pronoun Roman Catholic, and that leaves two individuals currently on the Supreme Court. One of whom, Breyer, will no longer be on the Supreme Court, following October, but who fall into the under the pronoun Jewish, and for a nation, that claims to be founded on a principle of the separation of church and state, the Supreme Court is constituted by a surprising number of individuals who seem to express a first loyalty to papal encyclicals and other kinds of doctrine that, as I recall, more or less belongs to particular religious institution and not to principles of American democracy. So there's a certain amount of irony there, I suppose. But you can see that to get sorted as an individual into the Supreme Court, it's highly advantageous to either currently profess a belief in and faith in the doctrines of Roman Catholicism, or to have been raised Roman Catholic, and then if not, your best advantage in being sorted into this institution is probably being Jewish. It's interesting because if you look at the demographics, and this chart is a little bit old. But if you look at the demographics of the United States, you see that there probably should be, more Protestants on the Supreme Court than are represented here, since they constitute 42% of the U.S. public. And it seems to me that this value, 20% Catholic, is not represented proportionally here in the 7 of 9, and I'm again counting Mr. Gorsuch as a Catholic, perhaps unfairly, but because he was both raised by Catholics, and the Protestantism to which he professes is basically the divorce inclusive version of Catholicism. So if we take a look at this color-coded demographic, we would expect for 4 of the members of at least 4 of the members of the Supreme Court to belong to the set, that the pronoun set that is referred to here as Protestant, the pronoun Protestant. And we would expect, perhaps 2 of the members of this set of Supreme Court justices to belong to the pronoun set Catholic. And we may or may not, see a Mormon, but we would be, and I don't necessarily think this is a positive thing. I've encountered Mormons, they particularly here where we live on the Navajo Nation, we still have the Mormon colonialist project, and so on more than one instance, we've had, visitors come knocking on the door of about, 17 to 19 years old, and they wear the little, white shirts and have the little ties and these short-sleeved white shirts, and then they tell you about this particularly weird, version of Christianity, in which I guess, and I'm not sure when it happened, but, either Jesus or some avatar of Jesus sailed to the New World and in their vision, tried to. I believe that the natives of this continent are referred to as, swarthy and indifferent, and various designators in the Book of Mormon. These Mormon evangelists, will attempt to get you to read passages from their Bible. I don't think they read the either a Catholic version or a Protestant version of the Bible, but they have their own Mormon Bible with all these strangely named angels and strangely configured narratives that sort of pit the westward expansion in these apocryphally driven Christianizing terms, and it's really, really extraordinarily offensive if you've ever attempted to read this Book of Mormon. I don't recommend it. Orthodox Christian, here's another one. Unaffiliated, we would expect to find at least two unaffiliateds here, and I noticed that unaffiliated is really underrepresented. So if we're going to have affirmative action in connection with the sorting mechanisms of these particular pronouns in regard to the demographics of the Supreme Court, I would begin with unaffiliated, endorsing a project of affirmative action for the unaffiliated in relationship to the Supreme Court. We see that atheist is really high. If you look, the percentage of individuals in the United States who are, that practice Judaism is only 1%, but agnostics and atheists represent 6 and 5%. So we should have 5 times the number of atheists that we have numbers of practicing Jews on the Supreme Court, and we don't, right? And we don't have 6 times the number of agnostics either. We should have an equal number of Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists. And if we did have an equal number, well, they could displace some of the Roman Catholics who are clearly overrepresented. So Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims, agnostics, atheists, and the unaffiliated should all belong to our project of redistributing and equity in relationship to pronouns of faith, I guess we can call them, on the Supreme Court. So in our affirmative action related to pronouns of faith and their underrepresentation on the Supreme Court, we're going to focus on, I don't know if we can do this. Is there any way that we can... I'll ask. My wife is a historian, not a historian of the law, but a social historian, and I'm going to ask her, Lori, is there any way that we can exclude Mormons from our affirmative action program in regards to sorting pronouns of faith in relationship to the Supreme Court, just because they're like kind of crazy? And offensively colonialist? Is there any way we can do that?
I think we should.
Is there any legal precedent for excluding someone from affirmative action just because, you know, they're lunatics?
Well, I don't think there is affirmative action.
There's no affirmative action for pronouns of faith? No. Is that why we have so many Roman Catholics on the Supreme Court?
I believe you're right.
All right, well, if we were going to attempt to exclude Mormons and maybe like not focus, is there any way that we could not focus on the actual majority just because they're a majority even though they are underrepresented? Okay, so 42% of the demographic representation of the United States is Protestant, right? So they're the majority, or at least is there a term for, you know, when it's below 50% but it's the highest number, that's still majority. What's that called?
Plurality.
That's plurality. Okay, so the Protestants are the plurality by far, like they're double the number of Catholics. So if the plurality were adequately represented, we would have 14 Protestants on the Supreme Court. If you include Gorsuch as a Roman Catholic, which I do, which he's not represented here as, but it's that whole tricky Episcopalian thing. So we'd have 14 Protestants, and we'd have 7 Catholics. And then if we're doing it by that number, then, wow, the math gets a little tricky here, but I think we'd have one, let's see, well, maybe we could just make 100. Maybe we should, instead of having 9 members of the Supreme Court, just for the purpose of this particular sorting, let's make 100 members of the Supreme Court. So we'd have 42 Protestants, 21 Catholics, etc., etc. But in this particular affirmative action mode, which you say that we don't have and probably can't have, but is there any way that we could mitigate the categories at the top, like the plurality? Because they're a plurality, can we not focus on affirmative action strategies for the plurality, but just for the minority populations? And what's the justification for that?
So the affirmative action just for minority?
Yeah, okay, so the plurality here is Protestant, but I'm trying to get rid of Christians on the Supreme Court, and I'm trying to establish like a protocol, a sorting mechanism that I could do that, because but what we have here is we have tyranny of Catholicism right now, right? Which is demographically a strange kind of pronoun sorting, because Roman Catholics in the United States only represent 21% of the population. So I'm trying to develop a pronoun sorting mechanism that we will allow for more Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims, agnostics, atheists, and unaffiliateds on the Supreme Court. And then I should also include Mormons in that, but I think, but will they fall under? What will they fall under? See, because right here in this demographic, Mormons are not Christians, or at least they're not Protestants and Catholics. Can we let's see, it's tricky because could we classify them as a cult and then exclude them from the project because their religion hasn't been around long enough? How old is Mormonism? Like a couple of hundred years? Well, that's still...
not even.
Well, that's a cult, right? That's not a real religion, so we don't have to include them. And is there any other ones that we don't have to include? It doesn't seem like it. So the problem is going to be right here in the Protestants, and you know, whether some of these Protestants are going to similar to the Roman Catholics, you know, try to regulate all of our lives with basically doctrines and ideologies adopted from their religion, as opposed to their you know, supposed, you know, beliefs in democratic institutions and the Constitution. And because they're the plurality, I'm not sure that you have to include, you know, pluralities in you know, pronoun adjustment. What would the term be? Pronoun adjustment, equality, you know, redistribution. Do we?
No.
No. Only minorities, right?
Right.
Okay. So that'll totally work. So we'll focus on these underrepresented groups. We'll designate Mormons as a cult, which I don't think anyone other than a Mormon will have a problem with. And they're only 2%, so there's nothing they can do about it. And Buddhism, you know, which has been around, Hinduism, I guess, is probably the oldest of the religion, so, you know, that's clearly not a cult. And Buddhism has been around a lot longer than Christianity. Judaism is already overrepresented, so we don't have to do anything about that. Agnosticism is probably the oldest one of all, right? Before there was religion, there was probably agnosticism. Atheism, I guess, is the scientific version of agnosticism, so that probably emerged sometime in the Renaissance, maybe, or was more clearly defined in the Age of Reason, suppose. I don't know. And unaffiliated, well, that's unaffiliated. What's that?
Those are also Christians.
The unaffiliated?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so they don't fall on well, clearly they're not part of the program then. If we lump all of the Christians together as a group, including the cult of Mormons, which is 2%, you know, then we don't even have to worry about the fact that they're a cult, because they become the majority, not merely the plurality. Because you've got 42% plus 21% plus 2% plus 1% plus 18. I mean, it's pretty. Wow, what's that? So that's 63 plus 2 is 65. Plus 1 is 66, plus 18 is 84. Is that right?
I think so.
So 84% of the United States is Christian. That's kind of scary. Like that's these other categories that you know, need to be, they should fall under, like, you know, the protected categories, right? They need to be protected from the tyranny of the majority, you know. So Buddhism would fall under this, Hinduism would fall under this, Muslims, agnostics, atheists, and then thanks for clarifying what this unaffiliated meant. I thought that was, you know, unaffiliated in terms of the universe of pronouns of faith, but it's only unaffiliated within the pronouns of faith that are designated as Christian, right?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, I think we have a plan, and we just have to figure a way of instituting it under some sort of provision that says or perhaps ask the question, what exactly do you mean by separation of church and state?